Hey.
Class is in session. Guys, welcome to the My Friend's Basement Studio podcast. This is a podcast about My Friend's Basement Studio. That's me, Maxim Allen.
And me, Connor Kwiecien.
Glad to have you. This show is a diary of our business with a little bit of tips and info sprinkled in. Maybe you're listening to this and you're like, I really love their banter, but I wish they would tell me how to set up a podcast studio room. You might find some of that.
We might, yeah. I'd say it falls greater into the education. It's like a vlog, not really a vlog.
It's a kind of a vlog.
Vlog / educational. It's not really I would not categorize this as entertainment.
Yeah, this is mostly for us.
It's for us, and it's interesting because, I mean, if this thing gets figured out, I don't know if it's been done. It's probably been done, but I don't know if what our goal has been done by No Name Comics.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because you have like...
Speak for yourself. I got a name. All right. I got a Patreon. What are you going to do?
You think about like your mom's house,
yeah,
which is really the model that we're looking at. They have Tom and Bert. Well, really Tom. And a bunch of names behind it. There are other successful studios that have created in-house stuff and other networks. So I guess they've built it up. No, we wouldn't be the first one, but it's a very, I don't know if
it's a tough thing.
It's a tough thing that I don't know if it's been documented.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So, well, we're doing that. Lessons learned for the week.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking about in general today, partnerships when it comes to podcasting and business. Lessons learned this week though. Oh, January's been getting organized month.
Yeah.
Fun fact about me.
Yeah.
I think you know this, but our listeners don't. For as long as I can remember, I've kept every to-do list in my head. The stuff that you see in the studio that's out now is new Connor. And a lot of times I put it up and I don't look at it. I remember the exact moment. I was in middle school and I would get paranoid that I would forget my assignment. And so every day on the bus, I would ask these two girls, what was the homework?
Yeah.
And at one point they said, why don't you just write it down? This was after months of saying this. And from that moment on, I went, I'm never writing anything down ever again.
It's the wrong direction.
It was, hey.
The childhood defiance.
But it's never come back to bite me in specific moments.
Yeah.
It's just come back to me to bite me in ways of underlying anxiety.
Yeah.
All the time. That
sounds like it.
So lessons learned is like, I'm getting more organized. And the real next step is that organization is not enough, but smart execution. It's one thing to put a task down and be like, oh, I'm going to do these things today. But it's another thing to actually prioritize it and follow through and get it done. Because in this business, I can say I want to do these things and then I could get 30 texts from clients.
Yeah.
And my day has completely changed. But the things I needed to get done were still the most important things to do.
Right.
So getting organized is absolutely key.
Write it down.
Write it down. Not just that though, but then go, how important is this actually? Do I need to get this done today? If so, that's it. Do it.
Yeah. And I used to do the mental lists, but now I'm very, very organized, especially with the calendar. Like my calendar is really good. I put everything in there, hanging out with people, like recordings, work stuff. Yeah. Everything goes in the calendar so I don't forget it. And like you can also, with your Google Calendar, you can put in stuff that isn't meetings. You can put in small, unimportant things that you just want to make sure you get done, and that'll help you not forget them. And it has a great tasks pane on the side that I use a lot.
Well, we're starting to use ClickUp now too. We have like ClickUp for the back end, in-house stuff.
Yeah.
And then Honeybook is what we're starting to use. We're figuring that out. And in theory, those work by filtering together into like a Google Calendar.
Yeah.
just overview.
And hopefully, maybe we'll move on from those one day if we find a better thing. But this is kind of what we got going on right now.
Yeah,
my first job out of college was at a like small company, right? Very small, 60 people. The ability for a small business to try software and ditch it immediately because it doesn't fit their needs is crazy. So we'll figure it out.
I worked at also startup, my last job, and I was there 9 months.
Yeah,
and I think we had 4 project managers, 4 project softwares, and it went like all the way back around at one point, and they just changed it every few months. I'm of the mind you just stick with it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Maybe something better will come along, but don't change it before you've tried it out.
If this was like, if we had a separate studio location that wasn't your basement, and we made it a point like every day we are going to the studio from like 9 till 4, whatever it might be. Like my immediate method would be, let's get a whiteboard with a grid and let's just start every day we'll do a stand-up meeting and we'll work through what we got to do. I mean,
that's more or less what I'm trying to do on ClickUp now.
Yeah.
Because I like the whiteboard of like, write it out, the most important things, or just getting all my thoughts out. But then the ClickUp is like, oh, this has been left over from before, or like set aside time. Who knows? ClickUp might not work. We might try other things, but like, it's just, it needs to be in front of me, and then I need to prioritize it.
Yeah.
But I think that's with any business, and that's with any show too.
Yeah.
It's really getting things organized and then following through is like the follow through. Right? People always say get organized. No one ever gives you advice. Follow through on that organization.
Yeah. And my follow through is this is not a lessons learned, but this is what I do, as you know. In my brain, I say everything only takes 20 minutes. At the end of the day, listen, I know it's tough out here. It's tough to find time for things. Sometimes you're just working on your laptop at home and you're like, fuck, I got to do the dishes. I got to scoop the cat litter. Oh, I got to take a shower. Even like some bigger tasks that are objectively longer than 20 minutes. But when you tell yourself it's going to take 20 minutes tops, you can accomplish anything. The follow through becomes immediate because you go, oh, if your brain is like, if you can do one task that you don't want to do because you convince yourself to do it, you can just do a bunch more. Like
momentum's real.
My momentum thing is like, I do daily stuff. So I do daily Duolingo, daily writing, daily draw a picture if I can. And then I also do daily math problems on my computer and like calculus and stuff like that. And once those get rolling, I'm on a mission, dude. Cause it's like you've heard the Navy commander, Navy SEAL guy who's like, make your bed, have you seen that?
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
I think I have that book.
Yeah. Shout out to that guy. Whatever. Hope he's cool.
Make your bed in the morning. Mark Cuban does not make his bed because he did the math to see how much time he would save and went, I'll wash it regularly, but I'm just going to leave it there.
If that's your vibe, go for it. The make the bed thing, making the bed is important, but I think you need another task or two to get started with your day that like engages your brain. And like for me, it's like I chose Duolingo because I'm trying to learn Chinese, right? So language, and then writing comedy because I gotta get better at comedy. Also like word focused. Drawing is like visual, and math is like problem solving. So I'm doing like this ridiculous like speed run of an elementary school day every morning, and let's follow through. A lot of momentum. Do the things you don't want to do, and you'll start doing the other things that you have on your to-do list.
Yeah.
Put down the TikTok and put on a podcast. Start crushing them. My lessons learned for the week. I'll throw this in here for the listeners. This is like kind of studio meta stuff.
Yeah.
I'd say when you're recording a podcast, have the two people. The way we are sitting now is prime.
Yes.
Having been a guest on other podcasts now, face to face is a little intense. Sitting side by side is like hard because you're constantly turning your neck. The 45 degrees, very chill. We could probably even tilt a little bit more, but I don't want to be like
yeah, it's a different dynamic with the camera for sure. The camera changes things, and I'm of the mind most podcasts should be filmed these days.
Yeah.
Just with the way content is going.
Yeah.
But there are certain shows, like shows that are audio only, and it's best for their content to be that way. The seating position is so much different. Rather than having 3 on stage, kind of going a lot, like the angles are all 45 degrees with the chair off stage and on the couch. And it's like everyone can look at each other. It's like a normal conversation, but that stuff is important. And actually, one of the shows that records here, we're just going to do video. Then they're like, well, we really want our lines of communication to be open. So let's continue to do audio. And then I listened to the whole thing and I went, this should be audio only. Like, the visuals, the information is so strong in this because it's more of an educational podcast that I don't necessarily want to see you reading off your notes. That doesn't do much for me. And maybe as it gets polished, or it's just as it gets polished, maybe there's less notes or there's a cleaner way to do it, move into video. But the lines of communication for that were so much more important than getting people on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back when we did small town radio, we did the side-by-side setup that we tried out.
Yeah.
It was tough. But
that's that desk over there. That's our studio desk.
You know what I do miss about that setup though? I love having the laptop open and the mug and the water bottle. I like the desk accessories, newscaster style.
Desks. I love desks.
Further, their lessons learned, I'll just shout this out, is we spent a couple hours like aligning the camera with some tape markers that you can't see on the wall if you're watching this. Just making sure that every time when we set up the camera, it's tilted the same way, it's zoomed in the right amount. Create the extra consistency. Mark your walls of your setup or something. You know,
floors too. We got tape on the floors for stuff.
Yeah, we definitely did that. I like the table tape. I love it because these chairs don't actually matter that much.
No, not as much.
But as long as your knees can fit comfortably behind the table, you're in frame. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be improved with our setup because we did this as a budget project. But I think what we're learning, and we're getting into the stages of, and I think this is true for podcasts and other businesses, is there's a sense of urgency, and that never really goes away if you're pursuing it at a high rate. And I think that urgency is good. It shouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. If there's no urgency, then the sense of getting things done drops, and you might drop the ball on certain things. But slow down and do the little things. Like if we'd taped earlier, or just, I don't know, there's a phase where you need to figure it out. It's kind of, I read something where UCLA or some school, they just let people walk on a new what's it, the court, not a courtyard, but the
like a quad?
Quad, yeah. They just didn't have any pavers or anything. They let people walk, and then they built paths along where people walked. Yeah. Because that was the most natural way to do it, rather than putting things down where people wouldn't walk normally. And I think there's a sprint phase where you're figuring it out and you don't know what you have. But once you're out of that, be intentional, slow down, mark things off, try and standardize processes, and that will free up so much time. If you actually slow down, you can go faster. And I think that's kind of the phase we're getting into now.
Yeah. And one day, I'm really excited to do this. One day we're going to have a studio space. It's not a basement, but like some actual studio space. And I would love to get like a camera mount, but like screwed into a board that's just bolted to the floor that never moves. It's nice and fixed, you know?
Yeah. One side note, I'm still surprised at how many people think these bricks are real. Yeah. It's so fun. Like, I don't know. Have you gotten to the point where you walk in here and you're just like, oh yeah, it is. Like, I see the things that aren't perfect here, and sometimes it's a little messy for my standard. And then people will still come in and be like, this is amazing. I'm like, have you lost that sense of like, wow, this is a really cool space? I think it is overall, but just like I'm desensitized almost.
I'm definitely desensitized, but when I turn these lights on back here and get these on, when this is all lit up and then I look, I'm like, nice. But I think everyone comes in here and they understand that all of this space is functional space.
Yes.
But this is the stage. So they all their attention is pointed at this corner. So
I know I brought up my senses of the space, my desensitization of it. Just say how much joy it still brings me when people are still in awe of it.
Oh, bringing someone down here for the first time rules. Yeah. I love it. It's it's like I didn't know these people all come down. Like I didn't know comedians were allowed to have nice things.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about, and I guess it's always kind of the dynamic of the show, but partnerships in general.
Yeah, because
that's something that for podcasters and business people too, I don't think it's talked about early on often enough, because usually if you have an idea and you're passionate, that's the most important thing at the beginning. But the second realization, once those things are going, is, oh, who am I working with?
Yeah.
If you're doing something together, if you're working by yourself, obviously you don't need to worry about that. But if a lot of podcasts have co-hosts, businesses, creative businesses, you often need other people. So what does that dynamic look like? What are important things to note? Because we're doing this process ourselves.
Yep.
Like we're friends outside of this, but it's not the same as living with a friend in business, but it is some of those dynamics of like, you get to learn different things that aren't as required.
Things you would have never seen before in standard friendship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to lay a foundation for finding this, like I've never thought about this, but like if you were to do it now, if you were to build a podcast now, and you knew lots of marketing involved, like you're going to build this into a brand, this big thing, and you know what it takes to build a podcast, how much work goes into it. What is desired? What are the questions you would ask someone who you're bringing on to be a part of this project? What are the ground rules and the boundaries that you need to lay?
Oh my God. I feel like the one thing that I'm glad about our working relationship is I feel like at the end of the day, we are actually very on the same page, even when issues do come up. And like even through small town radio, we had like 2 or 3 like sit downs, like what is happening with this show? Yeah. What needs to happen? What's the direction? How do we split this up better? But I think some of the big things, especially when making something like this, because if you're watching this at home, you see like, oh, these guys probably just go in, shoot an hour of a podcast, and then they're good, right? Yeah. No, well, that's not all of it. Like I have a show, 2 shows basically like that are very simple and like straightforward. But everyone can make the podcast time. Not everyone can do the time that's required outside of the podcast. So what you want to like make sure is like, okay, you want to do this podcast with me? We're both interested in this thing. Let's like riff about it. Okay. So we should do like 1 hour episodes. We can record here, blah, 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 whatever. What you need to ask after that is like, how much time per week can you spend like editing or marketing or posting on here, like the delegation of responsibilities. So I think I would just want someone who is like I think it's important to discuss the project scope with someone in its full capacity, right? Like, here are my like I talk about this all the time. This is dumb, but like, okay, my Gundam podcast, right?
Yeah.
Very straightforward. We watch the anime episode every week, we review, and we just riff about it on the show. I handle the editing, I post it. My co-host volunteered to start the Twitter account, and I take really extensive notes throughout the episode, so scene by scene, what's happening, right? And his notes are like looser, and he comments on things that stands out.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Oh, do you need me to make more notes or anything like that?" I'm like, "Not at all." Like, I set this expectation up top. Like, I just expect you to be here, have a good time, watch it with me, and then like anything else is extra. Here's what I'm gonna do, so don't sweat it. Like, I just need to make sure your headphones are charged and you use the bathroom before.
I mean,
that's a very simple, but
so. I'm gonna continue asking questions. I feel like that's gonna be the dynamic of this, but I want to contribute a thought first, which is the idea I think is the most important thing. Because if you're both
Yes.
committed to the idea of what you're doing, like with us with the studio of what we want it to become, then everything else can be figured out.
Yes.
Right? Like the hiccups on the road will be smooth. The bumps on the road will be smooth because the idea is still clear and you're both bought into it.
Right.
So I think the level of commitment is like the foundation. But the question is, so say now this, we're not referencing the Gundam podcast.
Right.
You can absolutely. I love anecdotal stories. That's not the point. But say this is the podcast. It's part of your career.
Right.
It's part of your brand. You're looking to make money off of this. And let's say, yeah, it's like, the division of labor isn't necessarily going to be equal from the upfront. Do you think it's better? And genuine question, because I feel like everyone that we know goes in division of labor is something we'll figure out in the future because we don't know what we don't know, which is fair. Is that better or is it going to someone, hey, I know what I bring to the table. I'm probably going to end up doing 70 to 80% of the work. And when this thing comes to fruition, the expectation is that's how we'll be compensated.
Right.
Because we always say clear boundaries up front, or like manage expectations. So that's a managing expectations route. And then there's the I don't know what I don't know route. And it can be somewhere in between, but how would you, starting this brand new podcast, handle that?
That's really tough. I think I almost feel like, because you always start the podcast with a person you like that's down for the podcast. So it's kind of hard to be like, back up. What's your deal?
Well, that's our thing with the new podcasts that come in too, because we don't do that conversation either, which is something we could have done if we wanted to go the network route. But yeah, continue.
So I feel like one thing, like what we were discussing today before the podcast, I think you should ask the other person what their working style is like. I think not everyone has that totally figured out.
Yeah.
But we talked about this. So Connor is very much a big picture workaholic.
That's fine.
Workaholic.
I broke up with someone and then I just filled it with work. That's literally, it's not even this breakup. It's been every breakup.
But yeah,
a healthy coping.
So we talked about your style is that you are constantly just outputting, and you also are more entrepreneurial. So you excel at growing something that's like something established, taking it to the next step and envisioning what that next step is going to be. And then you're just like constantly working to push things in that way and taking care of like little menial stuff. And we talked about how the way I work is I develop a routine, and I am like great at like accomplishing tasks when assigned direct tasks with deadlines.
Yep.
And that is something like I've recognized in myself over time. And it's just very different for the two of us. And I don't know how to describe like those things before you've actually started working on something with someone. That's the challenging thing.
I think that is, and it's like there's a maturity you need to have with the setting expectations route that both parties need to have. And if you're like an established podcast, you've been doing it for a while, that's probably the way to go. But if you're new, and our client base is definitely in this category, and just excited to podcast, it is
I'm excited to podcast too.
Yeah. And so it's probably, you're right, because it is hard. Like I don't think we knew these things until pretty recently, and we talked about it. But say, okay, so the new podcast that you're building is going down that path. When and this is something I'm not always great at, because I'm learning I need to be more of a straight shooter with these things.
Yeah.
And so what is the approach? What are signals that it's important to have these conversations of like, hey, we've hit 1,000 subscribers. Like I don't know, a 10,000 viewing hours. Like we're maybe close to monetization, or I want to start launching merch.
Right.
When do the conversations of, hey, I do this, you do that type of thing come up? Or even could be earlier. It's like, oh, now we need to do marketing. I feel like I'm doing more, but maybe not getting as much out of it as the other person, or equal amounts out of it.
I think that's tough because those are things you can almost never anticipate, especially with these projects. Like, especially when you're brand new. Like, if you're brand new, you should be just grateful that you have someone that is recording a podcast with you regularly and excited about the idea. And I think it's just every working relationship is going to be different. It would actually be really fascinating to learn if there's like I don't know if there's like working styles or like a working zodiac or like
there's a lot
types
of,
and archetypes of how people work,
because there's relationship types. So I got to imagine maybe there is something out there if you know.
But yeah, I'd love to like ask other people who are deep in partnership stuff, how they navigate it, what type of workers they are, and how they relate to the person they're working with. But if I was going to do like a heavyweight podcast, right? Like, let's say I cancel all my projects and I'm like, I have this one podcast idea. I need like one or two co-hosts and I want to like send this thing the distance. Like, I might have like one person that I like really want, and then maybe like an audition-y type spot. Like, oh, let's figure out a third person or something, you know? Yeah. I would be like asking like questions like, what other content have you produced? What have you worked when you were working with other people? Like, what have you done? And like, what if you've podcasted before? What was the dynamic, like the workload of that podcast? So just be honest about it, because like, also at the end of the day, I don't think there's any style of work that is wrong except for the one where you overcommit and then don't do anything. Like, yes, the only one that's wrong is like bailing on contributing.
No follow through.
No follow through.
Yes.
But everyone else, like, the thing is like, I'll say if you don't give me a deadline and a clear task, it's probably not going to get done because I don't have a clear way through it. It's just not how I work. And I'm just learning that about myself, and it's fine. So I want to accomplish these things, right? Like, if I was going to start like a heavyweight podcast, knowing myself, like I would be able to shoot the podcast and edit it and get it all the pieces together, right? And I'm like, I can handle this technical aspect. If I'm with someone, if one of my partners is like really social media savvy, be like, listen, you don't got to worry about posting the episode or anything. All you have to do is just post the clips as we make them and post the announcements and like run our Twitter. And then maybe the third person is like, listen, you maybe need to handle scheduling and just like making sure we can all be here on time, find times for recording, or like, can you just listen through the episode and let me know when the clips should be or something? Like, so kind of like, I don't know.
You're bringing up a few things, which is like, there tends to be a driver in the situation.
Yeah.
And I think we see that too with some of the shows that we have in here of like who's organizing stuff and who's delegating. Doesn't always mean giving up work. It means division of resources, right. Or division of time. But it seems maybe, probably the person that birthed the idea, it seems natural that they're the one who is in that position.
Yeah.
But I guess when is it important for you when you're making these decisions on people that you're evaluating these skill sets before they enter the roles, or is that something you're okay learning on the way? Because you don't like,
depending.
There's a lot of stuff you don't know until you realize you don't know it. Which can be tough. You're like, oh, this person doesn't have any of these skills I was looking for. I guess, is it important is there like a list of skills other than passion that are important? Or
yeah, depending on the context, I think, like it's hard to say. I think for people who are just beginning, I think just go with the flow.
Agreed.
Figure out the problems as they come. I think we did like our final episode of Small Town Radio. We talk about a lot of this stuff too. Was like what you want is, it at the very least, like when you work with someone, they should be enthusiastic about the project, and there should be at least clear communication. Like on non-project days, it has to be like always on the same page. Don't leave one person hanging. Just kind of the basic stuff. Like further down the line, like when I do new podcasts in the future, I think it's going to be mainly that, like, I think knowing what we know now about personality types, how people work, and like all this stuff, in the future, when the flags start going up that something isn't working, I think I'll just be quicker to address it and just be like, hey, I noticed that like when we do this, you don't do this part as well, even though you're kind of assigned to it.
Yeah.
Like how, like what is it missing? Do you have something you prefer to do? Do you have like some type of communication that you would prefer to get this done? Like, what do you need? I think.
And I mean,
I think we're just learning to become different types of managers.
There's that, and that's kind of what I learned today. Because I'm a very emotional person.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way where I don't necessarily show them, but I have a lot of them. Like I'll show them too, but I don't really get angry.
Yeah,
like my spectrum is not hothead to like crying. It's in here, but I feel a wide range of things. But what I really realized today through our conversation is like, it's okay to put those emotions aside for this when you're in business.
Yep.
Like it's almost better to not make it personal because it doesn't need to be. Like if going back to the point of like the idea is the most important thing, if that's what's there and you're working towards it, that's like kind of the through line. You're not saying things about the person as an individual. You're saying, how does this contribute to the end goal? And hopefully we get to the point, like, I feel like if people go back and watch these, they'll see what we were saying and be like, oh, whatever they were talking about before, they've learned through it. And now on the other side and evaluating from a different point. But that idea of like straight shoot, be a straight shooter, say things early once you notice them and realize that it's not an emotional base because everyone's learning. And it's all for the good of the project, not really the good of the people. Like it's good. It's good for the people. It is at the end of the day. And like, that's a nice goal to have. But if you kind of put that first, you start to remove yourself, things become a little bit easier. To work with as a partner, to be a leader, and to realize like, oh, this is all, as we always say a lot, just like keep going. Just put it out there. You don't know what you don't know. Keep moving forward. And as long as you can keep those things and smooth, keep everything smooth in that process, then the relationship's going to be okay.
Yeah, I guess that's something that's like a really good thing that I think about in regards to being married too. But like,
me too.
I think when you have,
it's here. This is my wife.
The thing that comes first is like, we're friends obviously, but like with this project, this is something we both really, really wanted, and we really want to do well, and was something we want to provide to the community. All this is the thing. Like, there is not a situation where either of us is just going to walk away from the thing, right? It's like similar to like being married. Like, I feel like now that I'm married, it's like kind of nice because like, and when we start talking about it, it's like, oh, when we have like arguments or disagreements, whatever it might be, you can then look at it as like the stakes are not one of us is going to walk out right now. What it's actually about is, oh, how do we get through this in a way where we can end the conversation and be still looking forward to what's next, you know? So it's like, oh, when you feel like security in the situation, you can actually communicate your feelings and thoughts clearer and calmer in general, right? Like if if we had our same discussion today, but we were both like, you know, $100,000 into this, and like we had like lots on the line, it might not have gone as clean. But like we are still like on the same page. It's like, oh, here's what we need to do. Like, this is where we are at. Here's the differences in how we are and where we're at with this project, and here's how we can meet in the middle.
Yes.
So.
And I think you brought it up in terms of dating, and you kind of just mentioned it again in terms of dating. It's something that I learned through dating the last person I was with, about that communication piece, where it's like a healthy relationship is honestly one where you can make a mistake in the steps you're doing, and the person's not going to disappear. Like you can say things and then be like, oh no, actually I'm 180ing, or like, I thought about it more. That's actually not right. Yeah. And I think a healthy relationship provides space to say that first piece and be wrong, like be okay to be wrong.
Yep.
and then also provide space for you to correct course, and that's not being held over someone's head.
Yes.
I think that's a dating advice. I think it's business. Like, it's going to move forward.
Yeah.
So make a mistake and then circle back and admit it, and it's all
right
moving forward.
Because if you focus on like the mistake itself and what went wrong and all this, then you really double down, and then you just start living in the world of this mistake is the biggest thing, the biggest problem ever. So, you know, I think it's funny with like like you see these videos about like, or you hear about the ick, you know, when you're dating someone, they do something and you're like, I just can't be with them anymore. If you actually like the person, you're not going to get the ick.
God, do you want me to talk about what I said to my exes? We broke it. That was the whole conversation.
It's like the truth is that nothing is perfect. Everything has issues. Everyone is coming from a different point of view. And you either like the entirety of something or you are probably not going to be into it, you know?
So maybe that is, I guess, the takeaway. We'll get into the things that we our highlights soon because we have people coming in to record shortly. But it's like birth of the idea is most important. And that's going to tell you a lot, whether you're with someone, whether it's alone, but the idea needs to be the leading factor.
Yeah.
In what the project is, because that's going to make things so much easier. If you're half committed to it, you're like, I don't know, you're chasing it for the wrong reasons. It's going to be a lot more challenging than it should be. And then it's not about necessarily, it's helpful what the person brings to the table. But that a commitment to the idea is the most important from both parties. And then being able to speak your mind, bring things up as they come up, and then delegate, kind of figure it out as you go, with how things are broken up and how things naturally get made. And then when you're unsure or feels tough, just remember the idea and what you're trying to build.
Yeah, exactly. Just eyes on the prize. Well, that's it.
That's therapy for today.
Yeah, and I guess it's interesting, like with this is okay. So when you join a company, when you get hired at a job, they already have the roles and the boundaries and responsibilities created for you to step into that position. It's very clear what the food chain is, what you can and can't do, what your exact task is, all this stuff. When you are building something from the ground up, there's none of that. Like our two job roles are Maxim and Connor, right? Yeah. So it's kind of figuring that out as we go. And like, there'll come a point where it's like when we start bringing extra people on, we'll have to like subdivide and create labels and categories of things that need to be done. And then we can better find people to fill those roles. But if you're keeping something small between just a couple people, like whether it be a podcast or a comedy show or whatever, manage expectations, be real clear. And I think also when you have a project together, you are not just showing up just for the project. You also are going to be having like bi-monthly meetings about said project, or monthly, or even more frequently, depending on the severity.
Yeah, no, there's more to a partnership than showing up for the main event.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, I don't know, if I was going to start a podcast from the ground up right now, one thing I would double check with people, if you're doing a podcast where you just show up and you fart around and have fun, whatever, that's fine. But if you have a podcast that has any sort of type of research, or you're talking about news, or maybe a piece of entertainment, or any other thing, career aspirations, like just make sure that who you're working with has availability outside of the podcast recording and will work on those things to prepare for that.
Yes.
Like one of the things it's funny that we had such a problem with this, but like small town radio, we kept pushing off our research to like day before, night before type stuff. And there was something like, it was neither of our fault, but there was something about doing that research that was so fucking annoying to like, I think it was just picking a town that had enough things to talk about. That was so hard.
Well, we were both doing a lot of mics, figuring a lot of other stuff out. I think we've stabilized more.
Definitely.
And I guess there's another point too. It's like, is it the right time for the project? Things you can do too early on. It could be too early. Like, I think if I were giving myself advice too on any project or picking a partner, is be patient if it's a good idea, then it'll last.
Yeah.
Like don't feel like you need to rush it. Just that's me with everything though. I'm kind of in the slow down phase.
I also think like you said, don't bite off more than you can chew. I think this is like very unique to us in comedy. But if you're a busy person, if you're juggling projects, say no to something. Like,
it's fine.
I'm at my say no capacity in my life right now where I'm like, here are the things I am doing. If anyone wants to start something with me, cannot do it. Like if someone asked me if I wanted to start a monthly comedy show with them, I would be like, yes, but I just want to show up for my spot and I'll bring the speaker. Like that's it. I'll help book, but I cannot spend time on this.
Yeah, I think saying no, not next episode, at some point will be a thing we should cover, because that's that power trip too. And just being in a position that's a confidence thing. But I don't want to get into that now. All right, highlights
for the week. Let's see. Studio related highlights. I'm trying to think. This is a tough one. I can't remember.
It's been a blurry week.
It's
been a busy week, but a blurry week.
We had a good S&D recording outside the studio. I was on Tony Awards this week with Vikrant as well. And
love the Tony Awards.
That's great. They're
awesome.
They got something special, and especially their like deep encyclopedic knowledge of all these actors and actresses and all this shit.
It's just fun. It's a hang.
Yeah.
They also have a clear vision of what we always talk about the Tony Award. They're great.
Amazing. So I love them. And then Rob Rigo, the owner of Grove 34, had me on his podcast, which was a lot of fun getting to know him. Really cool dude. And it was cool just like he's also like kind of leaning into doing some podcasting there and stuff, but it's cool to meet with other people who are running something small made from the ground up, right? Like they're running a comedy venue. Like I'm good friends with Matt and Amy at the Tiny Cupboard, who also are doing the same thing. It's just it's cool seeing like, like what are the issues you're having? What are you strong suits? What kind of other events do you do here? And just getting some perspective on like, I'm going to say small business with air quotes, because these are all very small businesses. There's just like a couple people involved in all of them.
Yeah.
But it is cool. It is a fun thing to experience.
I was thinking about my highlights because, again, it was a blurry week. A lot happened. Oh, we got Polaroid paper.
Oh, again. Yeah. More Polaroid photos.
So many of those. But I'll do a similar one to you. Because I'm very entrepreneurial minded. It's kind of how I'm wired. That's what I'm learning about myself. And I found a small business that I've been talking with them basically since we started. I went in being like, I'd be sick to get sponsorship money because I have an idea. You should pay me for it. And it's developed into this beautiful, they're a small business. They want to see us succeed. I want to see them succeed. How do we collaborate? It's actually, I didn't do this intentionally. Well, I did put it up here intentionally now because we're working with them a bit, but I didn't do it thinking I would do this. But it's this company called Knows Best. They make candles down the street. It's like a 10-minute walk from here.
Every candle comes with a Spotify playlist and a cocktail recipe.
Yeah, and I talked about it last episode, getting affiliate links, but I went in and they talked about CPAs, how they run their business, like learning a lot, and I've appreciated that relationship. And we're going to have the affiliate links on our socials, on our website. And
so you can buy a candle from them through our affiliate link. Help us out, help them out.
Exactly.
Contribute.
We'll probably put out stuff on social media, but I really appreciated the conversations that I've been having, and it's very clear that it's a two-way street. Like we were the ones that they told me this week we were the ones that got their affiliate linkage to Drive. They were working on it, they just hadn't put it out, and I was like, I have the right fit. So it's a really beautiful mutual relationship, and I'm learning a lot, and I've appreciated that, and I'm looking forward to meeting more small business entrepreneurial minded people. It's fulfilling.
Definitely a cool thing. I mean, because I feel like a lot of what we do feels like the only way to get answers is to go on YouTube and try to piece stuff together, but like you can just walk into a place and ask them what's up.
Yeah. I mean, this has been a relationship again, like 6 months, but I'm learning. I'd much rather learn it from an expert than there's so many blogs now and all. It's just, Information's getting muddled. Information's getting muddled. And I guess the point is, if you want direct information, hit us up. Like we do a bunch of consulting.
It's like the same thing I went through when I wanted to start a podcast. And I was like, I looked up all these videos and stuff, and I was like, I don't even know how to make a setup. Like, what mics do I use? My computer? Do I use an interface? What's needed? And when I met you, you're like, I use the Zoom H6 and 2 microphones. And I was like,
honestly,
perfect. Just like making a decision and then going from there.
Yeah, shoot straight. Oh, I really put that together. Just now, like that was a decision. I need to do that more often. But the Zoom H, it took like 2 years for me to get to that point and realize it. It like, I need to talk with someone, and then I saw someone doing it. And I was like, wait, why am I not doing that?
Yeah, that's basically the same exact thing that happened. Like, even my wife Lee, she records podcasts at our place.
Yeah,
and she uses the old setup.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I think that's it. I don't know. I didn't get there. Whatever was there was not coming out. But yeah, Worthless Clowns is coming in. They're launching shortly.
Yeah,
and
they got their cover art done too, which is exciting. Looks great. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit up our affiliate link. Buy a delicious candle.
Eat them.
Use them like chapstick. Pinch them between your butt cheeks. Whatever you got. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go listen to our podcast and other people's podcasts.
Bye.
Bye.